Feeding hay on the homestead is a necessity in the winter to keep our cows fed and happy. And our hay feeding rack was not meeting our needs, so today we're going to make a new one. Hey friends, it's Barbara Sue at Kowalski Mountain and welcome back to our channel. Now, despite the fact that we let our fields grow quite deep with grass here at the homestead, our cows were not eating the grass. The grass is so deep that they would disappear into the fields and you couldn't even see them. But our cows continued to act hungry and I was getting really concerned about them losing condition. After some research, we learned that when the grass hits a certain age, it becomes bitter and the cows don't like it anymore. Despite the fact that we have a field full of grass, our cows were hungry and we've been forced to feed hay. Now Philip likes to reuse as much as he can and he's quite creative in his engineering when he creates things. However, this rack was not meeting our needs. There's only one spot that's really easy for the cows to eat the hay from, and over here she's actually making her own spot. They have forced their head into the chain link to make another opening because nature finds a way. Now a hay rack is necessary to prevent so much waste from the cows, and today Philip's going to create a new one that will meet our needs better. Today Philip is building this hay feeder with wood that he milled on the sawmill, and he's using up a lot of the cuts that he has on hand. So some of the cuts that you're going to see are called cant cuts, and that's the cut of wood when we take off the very first cut that has the rounded edge of the tree. And some of the cuts are also what he might consider trash wood. They're not near as nice as he'd like it to be, so he's using it here in a smaller project.
I notched every one of them so that they'll actually interlock because I'm using such thin stuff and I can't use 4x4s. If I put the 4x4s in the middle, then it makes it even wider. So I'm putting these on the outside, so I cut them, split them in half, and then I notched them so that they would sit right over the outside edge. Did the same thing on that side, did the same thing on the front, and then we'll go ahead and put support, and then there'll be a roof that'll go on here so we can actually capture some rain. So I'm right at that point where I can start collecting my stuff, start attaching it and putting it together. I might just put taller skids underneath just to keep it up off the ground, but those I'm gonna check it out. I think what I'll do is we'll build the whole thing and then I'll take my measurements probably and then I'll burn those pieces so that they don't rot, and then we'll go ahead and attach them to the bottom. But right now we have this skid. We'll see how it's going to be structurally, build the whole thing, and then we'll just tip it one way, put the bottom piece on and be good to go.
Once Philip had all the boards notched and fitted, we worked together to place the corner posts. Each board was carefully fitted so that it fits perfectly together to make the most soundly built hay feeder that we can.
That's better. Gonna put this on around the outside. additional nail into that side. I can always trim it off later.
With the corners in place, the hay feeder really begins to come together. I love the rustic looking wood that we used from the sawmill. I love the kind of country charm that it brings to the farm. To keep the hay off the ground, the hay feeder will have a floor, but we're not going to make it too tight because we want any water to be able to pass through and not pool on the bottom. Now, determining the height of the hay feeder is a little bit complex. Because of Prince, we have to be mindful that he can't reach some of the things that the other larger cows can. We also want to be mindful that as the herd grows and we add calves and younger cattle, we want the hay to be accessible for all. We still might fine-tune the height of the sides, as in just the few days that the cows have been using the feeder, they're still wasting quite a bit of hay. The hay feeder has been built on skids to allow us to move it by using the tractor. And because of that, Philip has had to add some extra supports to the tops and sides to make it structurally sound to be able to handle being pulled by the tractor. Sometimes we use large wheels to move the hay, so I measured the wheels and the opening to ensure that we'd be able to load the hay using the large wheels. Philip decided to move the original board from the bottom of the feeder up to the top, using the heavier board of the cant cut on the bottom. To support the roof, Philip needed some thinner wood to use as purlins, and he didn't have any on hand. So the nice thing about the sawmill is we went ahead and cut some. Our ultimate goal on our off-grid homestead is that we will harvest rainwater for drinking water, not only for ourselves, but also our animals. So every structure is built with that thought in mind, that we need to be able to capture the water on the roof. Now this roof is twofold. One, to try to keep the hay somewhat dry, but we also want to take advantage of any surface to gather water for our farm. Now on the back of the hay feeder, we needed to add a gate, and we talked about a lot of different options, but we decided to make a gate that would also act as a ramp. Sometimes we use large wheels to manually move the hay when the tractor is unable to move due to ground conditions. When we measured the height of the roof, we did take a measurement of the large wheels to ensure that the wheels would be able to roll right into the hay feeder. Unfortunately, we didn't consider the extra height that the ramp would take away from the total opening. So we will need to make a modification to be able to use those wheels. To secure the gate, Philip drilled holes through the outside frame and into the gate itself. Then we use a pin that slips through and secures the gate into place. Now the final boards on the gate, Philip really wanted to put a single board that went across the entire front, but we didn't have one to use, so we used up the pieces that we had on hand. Once the eye bolts were in place, Philip added a strap. This will allow us to move the feeder using the tractor or the bobcat. It's ready, and it's time to get set up in the pasture. We still need to get a gutter to add to the front, but we went ahead and added a water trough to capture any water that might run off the roof naturally. Just to get the cows started, we pulled all the hay out of the old feeder, put it in the new feeder. Well, friends, the new hay feeder looks like a success. Everyone can eat at the same time. They can all reach the hay without any problems. And this feeder pulled like a dream on the skids. This is going to be much easier for us to manage the hay. Now, today we just took all the hay that was in the old feeder, put it in here, but we designed this with the gate that we would be able to lower the gate, and even if we have to manually put in the hay bale using the big wheels, we can roll this in and get it in there with or without the tractor. I am super excited about it. I love it. Now, Philip purposely used a lot of what he calls trash wood. So using the sawmill, sometimes the wood that he mills is not exactly the way he wants. He used a lot of that wood in this project to save the nicer wood for some of the nicer building projects. Now, the final aspect of this project is putting a rain gutter on it. So because we are an off-grid homestead and we are working towards the goal of doing 100% of our water as rain catch, every surface is going to be a rain catch surface. So we still need to get a rain gutter to go onto this structure, and it will just fill the cattle trough and keep that nice and full. Well, friends, thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate you watching all the way, especially to the very end. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, hit that button. We'd love you to become a part of the Kowalski Mountain family. We'll see you next time.